Okay, this video is dedicated to the, well, we'll say the geniuses that came up with an idea to put a guy that has never been in line for a title ever against the guy that has been defending, he has the longest running title defense in UFC history and is widely renowned as the world's best fighter. He's probably on every single MMA fans' top 10 favorite fighter list. He's exciting to watch. Everything about him is incredible. His jiu-jitsu skills are off the hook. His striking is something to behold, and I mean, he's even got wrestling. You know, he's even got wrestling. His boxing is top three in the UFC organization. And this is Anderson Silva, and his opponent, his formidable opponent, in Stephan Bonnar, studies Muay Thai. He came close to beating Forrest Griffin. I think it was 7 or 8 years ago. It was a very important, monumental moment for MMA to have that happen, to have that fight happen between he and Forrest, and have it go down the way that it did. It put our sport on the map. So, I mean, props to Stephan Bonnar, and props to Stephan Bonnar actually for having the cojones to actually step into the cage with Anderson Silva. That's got to be a scary experience. But here's the thing: the guy's contemplating retirement as it is. Okay, and all these injuries happen. Jose Aldo's out. Eric Koch is out. Frankie Edgar's not fighting anymore. Jesus, who else is out? Of course, Dan Henderson's out. Everybody just injured, and cards are shifting. Everything's all fucked up, and we're getting watered down cards from Dana White anyway. So, okay, so what do we do to solve this crisis? We're gonna go to Rio and bring Anderson Silva and someone that he can definitely kick the living dog shit out of, for sure. There's no way that I've never seen a spread. I'm really interested in odds, and I usually report them, is not discreet, but I just like to keep it to people that understand. It's the way the American system goes is something like this. Anderson Silva is, and let me make this is as blunt as I possibly can, okay? Anderson Silva is a negative 1550, okay? A negative 1550. And Stephan Bonnar is a plus 850. Plus isn't a good thing. Plus means you are the underdog. Negative means that you are the favorite. Negative, and the number that follows, is how much you would make if you were to lay $100 bet down. So say you lay $100 down, and Bonnar wins. It would be, you'd make $1,550 back plus your 100 that you laid down in the first place. However, if you make a $100 bet on Anderson Silva and he wins, make sure that I'm the one you give your money to, so I can take it and just smack you across the face, because you haven't figured out by now, you would actually owe yourself money. You would owe yourself a few times more than you put down. But this whole thing's a travesty of mixed martial arts. I mean, it's going to be an embarrassment. But I mean, I guess looking through the eyes of Stephan Bonnar, you're looking at retirement. You don't know, where your career's headed. I guess he's had 2 straight wins. I can only recall the win in the rematch against Krzysztof Sosinski. He won that rematch, and damn, I can't remember who he fought last, but yeah, but I mean, he's mainly a decision fighter. He just takes his time, and he's versed in Muay Thai. He's a good striker, an underrated ground game. But Anderson Silva is, and again, I can't stress this enough, he's the best fucking fighter on the planet Earth. He's the best fighter on the planet Earth. I mean, there's just an enormous gap between, oh yeah, this guy, he set the tone for Ultimate Fighters and stuff. And he's versed in Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, and saying, this guy is the best fucking freak of nature fighter that we've ever seen on the planet Earth in mixed martial arts ever. His wrestling, I mean, he got the back mount on Dan Henderson, submitted him. Chael Sonnen stuffed him into the cage and gave him a couple of knees to the ribs, and then they called that fight. Those are two of the best wrestlers in the company. The fight for the company. The promotion, the UFC promotion, is in trouble. We're getting some of the worst cards I've ever seen are coming out in the next 2 months. I think the next best card after this one, after not 153, 152, Jones versus Belfort. The next best card is until December, and that's Henderson versus Diaz for the title. Until then, nothing's going on. Nothing's going on at all in MMA, at least in the UFC. And in case you haven't heard, Dream did go under. The Dream fighting organization, they went under. Not sure why. I will get back to you on it, or at least post a link in the description. I mean, that sucks because it reminded me of the Pride days in a way. I guess they kind of tried to keep that feel with the pink and blue gloves and the ring and the huge stadiums. MMA is the birthplace. Japan is the birthplace of MMA. You'd think that they would have a nice, strong MMA organization over there, kicking over there, like they did when they had Pride. Pride was equally as popular as the UFC. I loved watching Pride because, the soccer kicks, everything was so different, And then you had some UFC fighters that would go over to Pride to compete. Chuck Liddell went over there, knocked out Guy Metzger and Alistair Overeem. In the end, was knocked out by Rampage, and didn't win the tournament. Shogun became the youngest champion at 205, and possibly people were talking about Shogun, who at this time in Pride, as being the best 205-pounder ever. And he didn't fight for the UFC. He didn't fight for the UFC until his debut a few years ago with Forrest Griffin, which he lost via a rear naked choke in the third round. I don't think anybody saw that coming. And then he had another lackluster performance against Mark Coleman that he barely won, and he started picking up the tempo with Liddell, and then the rest is history. But a lot of good things have come out of Japan and Pride and Dream, and just sucks to have to say that. I'm sure Dana White will pick and pluck a few fighters from Dream. He gets what he wants, so that's the way it's going to work. I don't know why Dana would want this for Stephan Bonnar, unless Stephan really wants to retire. And, he's like, might as well go balls out, let's retire, just quit, or let's just fucking go balls out and fucking fight Anderson Silva. And it just happened to just, play out that way. But Silva taking this fight, Anderson, it's a risk for Anderson because, listen, we're talking about a 13-1, 15-1 possibly. I've seen 15-1s, 15-1 underdog. That's a huge spread. That's the biggest I've ever seen in mixed martial arts. If somehow, some way, in some parallel universe at UFC 153, if Stephan Bonnar does beat Anderson Silva, it will go down in history as the biggest upset ever, I think, in any combat sport. He won't lose his title because the fight is at 205 pounds. That sounded terrible. 205 pounds. I'm sorry about that. The fight's at 205. Anderson's known to come up there and do damage, though. James Irvin, that was over in a minute. Forrest Griffin, that was over in a minute. So the only thing I can come up with is Dana obviously gave Bonnar and Griffin lifelong passes to the UFC. You guys will never be unemployed. You will always have a job here at the UFC, whether it be fighting or the director of fun or whatever the fuck. So they're since they're responsible for basically the launch of mainstream MMA. Dana White gives them, there is no, three strikes you're out rule for those two fighters. He did recommend that Forrest retire this year. He's supposed to face Chael Sonnen. I would love to see that fight go. That seems feasible. That's fair. That seems all right. And I can already, I already have my favorite picked out. I'm not going to say who it is just yet, but I already have my favorite picked out for that one. I just don't. Yeah, yeah, fuck it. Let's talk about it. I just don't see the flame in Forrest anymore, and I certainly don't see it in Bonnar. I see him trying. I really do. Coleman, he gave up. He gave up against Mark Coleman, and he was Coleman's last victim, and that's embarrassing. Mark Coleman wasn't looking good in the UFC. When he fought Randy Couture, he was slow and he was just slow, no skill, no talent, no smooth. There was no fluidity, there was no combinations, there was no attempted takedowns. His stance was awkward. He looked back, and Randy Couture, took care of that situation. But there is more on the card. There are more fights on the card, and I don't think the card's all that bad. I'm not sure. I don't think that the card is as bad as I initially thought it was. I thought the card was, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. I think the rest of the card is going to be, it's going to go on as originally scheduled. But, anything can happen at any given time. I heard that Jose Aldo got into a bicycle accident. Motorcycle accident and was hit by a car. And but there was just something wrong with his foot. He was still able to compete, and he would be fighting Frankie Edgar. And then and now I hear that his foot's fucked up and he can't compete. So, just that fast, it can happen. Things can change. A lot of things can happen. So, silly question, but let's do it. Viewer poll: do you see any possible way for Bonnar to pull this out? And if so, if you do see any way for Bonnar to possibly pull this fight out, to beat Anderson Silva, what would the method be? Would it be decision? Would it be a submission, TKO, straight knockout, split decision, draw? I would look, if I was fighting Anderson Silva, I would consider a draw a huge win. Daddy's not coming home tonight kind of win. So, I'm just playing. But really, the only thing I worry about is honestly his safety. This is Anderson Silva. He's a nasty, devastating striker. He's just a deadly Muay Thai machine. He gets you down. He's going to choke you, and if he wants to brawl, it's not going to work out. It's going to be a quick night for both fighters, and it's going to be a very painful hospital stay in Brazil for Mr. Bonnar. So I wish him the best of luck. You have balls the size of boulders. Props to you, Anderson Silva. I'm actually kind of hoping to see this upset because it will. A lot of people will forget about the Matt Serra GSP thing. But that also was an 8-1 or a 9-1. We're talking 13, and I've seen 15-50, and that's eek. Wow. I saw Cuddles Jan Finney in Strikeforce real quick before I go. When Chris Cyborg was defending her title, she was defending her title one time a couple years back against someone named Jan Finney. A pretty good, decent Muay Thai striker, but with a record of 6-6. I think Cyborg's record is 27-1. So they put, just the records, 27-1 and 6-6, and we're like, wow. So I went to MMA Convert and looked up the betting odds. The betting odds were 12-1. It was 12-1 that Cyborg would win, and that was the it's all over YouTube now. That is the classic beating that Kim Winslow refereed that could have been stopped 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe a dozen times, and Kim Winslow did not stop it. Jan Finney took a vicious beating at the hands of Chris Cyborg, and I don't want to see Bonnar go through that. Hopefully. hopefully all goes well. I'm going to see that. I'm going to watch it just out of sheer curiosity. Viewer poll, UFC 142. Jones is fighting Belfort. I like this fight better than any other. I like this fight better than Shogun. I like this fight better than Sonnen. I like this fight better than I think Belfort. He's been there. He's fought in every organization, in every weight class, every catch weight there could be. He's got a well-rounded game. He's kept up with the times. I think this is perfect. I think this is going to end up to be a good fight, and he certainly has a far better chance than 9-1. He should not be anywhere close to a 9-1 underdog to John Jones. I say 4. Maybe 4 to John Jones, but I mean he's amongst the best boxers in mixed martial arts, not just in the UFC, not in that particular organization, but in the sport. Period. He is amongst the elite boxers. So we'll see what happens. Anything can happen in the sport. That's what makes it a beautiful thing. And John Jones, is unorthodox as they come. That's what makes him beautiful. And you're watching my video, and that's what makes you beautiful. But for right now, below, comment, who do you guys like on the 22nd, and how's it going to happen? You like John Jones, or you like Vitor? Hopefully I'll see some comments.